Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Robbie Craig of the Flip Flop Flipper, and we are going to talk about today in this video whether it's cheaper in today's market right now in this inflationary economy to buy a house or to rent a house. There's a whole bunch of factors that go into it, and we're going to talk about the pros and cons of both. Obviously, guys, we look at things from a real estate investor standpoint, so I always lean that way. So just know that as you consume our content. If you're out there, I'm encouraging you that you should be a real estate investor. I'm encouraging you that you should be a homeowner. We are landlords, and we own rental properties, and we love to have great tenants, but maybe by the end of the video, I'm going to convince you that you shouldn't be a tenant. You might want to become a real estate owner and buy that house, or become a real estate investor by house hacking and buying something where you can live in it and have it paid for by your tenants. So what are the pros and cons of buying versus renting? Let's run through some of the stuff. Here are the pros that I come up with for renting a property. Obviously, the out-of-pocket expense is going to be much, much lower when you're renting a property. So that's number one. Your cost to get into a rental property, even though rents have skyrocketed, and guys, I think it's a big problem. I think that this inflation stuff has hurt us all. As landlords, we have to raise rents. We don't make as much money. As tenants, you're paying just ridiculous amounts to be in a house that isn't as much as it was just a few years ago. And I've got a lot of content out there recently about what's going on in the rental market, especially in and around Orlando, Florida, which is where we've done a whole lot of business, where we own some rental properties. And so as I was driving around Orlando recently, I would just be in front of a house and I would give a short on it and just talk about, hey, what are the rents now versus what were they back in the day? So number one, lower upfront costs. That's obviously a benefit to being a renter. Number two, the cost of maintenance for a tenant is going to be much lower than the cost of maintenance for a landlord or for someone who owns a house. So when you're a tenant and the pipes break, you can call the landlord and they're going to send someone out and they're going to take care of it. So that is great. There are some things that you need to take care of, right? Like, so if the toilet just gets clogged, grab the plunger and take care of it on your own, but there's no cost to that either way. But when big things happen, like if you need a new septic tank or if the roof starts to leak, or if the appliances go out and you need to get new appliances, that generally, those big expenses generally land on the feet of the person who owns the house. So as a tenant, you don't have those costs. So the cost of maintenance is far, far less as a tenant than it is as a homeowner. Another big advantage to being a tenant and not owning a house, you have flexibility, right? So if you're not certain of where you want to live, like if you move to a new place and you don't know the area very well, it's a good idea to rent a place while you figure out where it is that you want to live specifically. Or if you're a young person and you don't know where you're going to get that job and where you're going to end up having a family, it's always a good idea to start out in a rental property so that you have the flexibility that at the end of a period of time, you can just pack it up, take the clothes off your back and whatever few things you need and get on the road and move on to the next place. That's a beautiful thing to have that freedom, that flexibility. And being a renter, you get that, right? So that's a pro, I think, to being a renter as opposed to being a homeowner. So what are some cons to being a renter as opposed to a landowner? Well, the big one is that over time, you're paying somebody else's mortgage down. You're paying for someone else's property, right? And you're never going to recoup that money. So this is just a loss of money. If you're spending $2,000 a month right now in Orlando, Florida, to rent a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, you do that for a few years, you're just out that money. You never get it back. Whereas if you were to buy a house, you'd be able to recoup that money over time. Another con, and we're experiencing this one in real time right now, rental increases are a thing, right? Like, so the rents have just skyrocketed. That's what I've got this content out there about, is that the rental prices in Orlando, Florida, they're up 100% over the last few years. So that 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that was renting for $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a month just a few years ago, now that same house is renting for $2,200, $2,300, $2,400 a month. It's insane, guys. It's like, as a landlord, sometimes I'm at these houses and thinking about what the market will bear and what people are paying for rents, and I don't understand it. I mean, the truth is, it's a problem that needs to be fixed, right? So you need more real estate investors. We need more houses on the market. We need more development. So those are some pros and cons for being a renter. Now let's get into the pros and cons of being a homeowner. The first thing that comes to my mind when I think about what are the advantages to owning a home is you don't lose that money. You don't lose that rental income. You're not just throwing money away. You're building equity. And building equity, guys, is a beautiful, beautiful thing. it's where most people in the world get their net worth, right? Like, so unless you're a business owner or you invest wisely at the end of a life, like my parents, let's take my parents, for instance, most of their money, they had a 401k and they had some retirement stuff, but most of their net worth was built into the house that we lived in for 40 years while they raised their family. So my sister and I, we were in the same house throughout childhood and through high school, and my parents sold the house at the end of their life, and that was where the vast majority of their net worth came from. They had built up equity in this house by being a homeowner and keeping the house for a really, really long period of time. So building that equity, that's the number one pro to being a homeowner. Number two, the stability that you get from being a homeowner. So when you buy a home today, you're going to be able to lock in a 30-year fixed mortgage. You're going to know what your payment's going to be basically for the next 30 years. There's some variables, insurance is going to go up over time, taxes may go up over time, so it could go up slightly, but that monthly payment is going to stay fixed. It's going to give you complete security. You're going to be safe in knowing that for the next 30 years, you've got a $2,500 a month payment, and nobody's coming. As long as you make your payment on time, nobody's ever going to come and raise it up and ask you to leave. So that's security, that's stability. That's a big pro to being a homeowner. Number three, and this is a big one that many people don't think about when you are looking at buying a home, but you get some amazing tax benefits to being a homeowner. So in the case of being a renter, not only are you paying the rent and throwing that money away and never getting it back, when you contrast that to being a homeowner and now you're paying interest on the money, you get to write that off on your tax return. So you're paying that money out to the bank, you get to take a tax deduction for it, and when you sell the property, you're going to recoup your investment. So you're going to build equity and you're going to recoup your investment. So that's a big one. These tax benefits that you get to becoming a real estate investor or a homeowner even, they're massive. They're a great way to cut down on what one of your biggest expenses in life is going to be, which is taxes. And that's not even counting if you guys become like landlords and owning houses, rental properties, and taking depreciation. I'm just talking about living in a house and being able to write off the interest. There's a whole bunch of other tax benefits. We should do another video about the tax benefits of owning real estate at another time. Here's some of the cons now to having home ownership, all right? Number one is just the inverse of number one for renting a property. It's a higher upfront investment to becoming a homeowner. So where it's easy to get in as a rental property with a little bit of money, when you want to buy something, you're going to need a minimum of 5% plus some closing costs. So this is a pretty big outlay of cash that you need to have in order to be a homeowner. That's a number one con, right? That's why a lot of people don't buy, is that they never get enough money that they can go to the bank and qualify for the loan. So if you do have enough money to do that, you're blessed and good for you. And I would encourage you to jump in, become a homeowner, become a real estate investor, all of it, you guys. Number two, and this again, we talked about this as a renter, your maintenance costs are now all on you. So if you need a new septic tank, if you need new appliances, if the roof leaks, if anything bad happens, right? If there's an electrical problem, all of this stuff you're paying, you're footing the bill for it. So very big con to being a homeowner, right, is that everything lands in your lap and you're responsible for all the expenses. Number three, market value has some risk, right? Like, so back in 2008, if you had bought in 2008 and then the market crashes on you, you might own something temporarily that doesn't have any equity. And so owning in that case for a very short period of time, there was some risk to that. Generally speaking, I don't see this one as that big of a risk because most of the time real estate's going to go up. If you own it long enough, it's going to go up. But it is something that you need to be thinking about when you're considering whether or not you should be a homeowner or continue to be a renter. So those are the pros and cons to homeownership. And I guess you could put it together and say those are the pros and cons to being a homeowner versus being a renter. Some thoughts that I have as I'm finishing up the video here is that if you are going to be in one place for a significant period of time, I highly encourage you to become a homeowner and to invest in real estate. Even if you're going to only be there for, say, 5 to 10 years, I think homeownership will always be better for you over that period of time than renting. If you're going to be in a place for a year or 18 months or maybe even up to 3 to 4 years, maybe renting is still better for you. But guys, you should seriously consider becoming a homeowner and building that equity and getting your net worth up. There's a whole bunch of other benefits and you're going to love it. One other thing that I'll leave you with, guys, when you're considering whether or not to buy or to rent, you want to look at the market. You want to see if this is a place that you want to be in for the long term. And is the market rising? Is the market declining? So those are some things to consider before you jump in and buy. If you're in an area where the trend is down, maybe you don't want to become a homeowner yet, but if you're in an area where things are generally going well and prices are going to go up, it's a very safe thing to do to become a homeowner.